I'm Adaline Bebo, and if you know me, you know I love to roll. So today I thought I'd break down one of the most fundamental rolls of all, the elbow roll. But we're going to take it a step further and learn the reverse elbow, the elbow extension, and the elbow retraction. We have a lot to get learning, so let's get rolling. The elbow roll, of course we're going to start with what our body is doing. So with my feet, they're just going to be nice and shoulder width apart, a solid foundation for us to begin rolling on. My hips and my shoulders are both going to be square to the front, and my shoulders are going to be down and relaxed. Of course, the real star of the show is what our arms are doing. So for the first elbow roll, I'm going to demonstrate just with my left arm, but of course this can be mirrored on our right arm, just the same. So my left elbow is going to be pointed directly forward, straight ahead, and I'm going to make sure that it's a nice, tight triangle. And to make sure that this is a perfectly shaped triangle that it's not too open, which can cause some problems for our rolls, I'm going to lightly rest my fingertips right on top of my right collarbone. Speaking of fingertips, I'm going to make sure that they're nice and squeezed together in a blade. My thumb is going to be tucked under, and they're going to lightly rest all in one straight line from the tip of my middle finger through my wrist all the way to the point of my elbow. Now I want it turned this way or this way, I want it nice and straight. My palm is also going to be down at all times. You don't want it forwards or toward you. You want to make sure it's nice and flat to complete this perfectly flat tabletop for our roll to roll right on top of. Now we're ready to get rolling. I'm going to first demonstrate this in the right hand. This is going to be a left elbow roll. To initiate the roll, I want to make sure that I'm holding the baton in the right place. I'm going to have my thumb up on the baton, and I'm going to have 2/3 of the baton on top of my thumb. This will make sure that as the baton is rolling across the top of my arm, that the center of balance of the baton, so this middle taped part right here, is going to be directly in line with my elbow. That will make sure that there's not too much baton on this side that will pull the baton downward, or if there's too little baton, it's going to have a lot of trouble pushing itself up and over that arm. So having the right center of balance right in the middle of your elbow is really important. Once the baton is in your right hand, 2/3 of the way down with your thumb up, you're going to scoop your right hand underneath your left elbow until it's on this left side of your left elbow, touching the outside of your shoulder with that thumb. To begin rolling, I'm going to have my left elbow in that formation. My right thumb is going to be up on the baton, and I'm going to connect my thumb to the side of my left shoulder. It's going to be right where my shoulder meets my arm. You can kind of see this little differentiation here. That's where my thumb is going to actually touch this side of my arm. It's really important that it touches, because if you reach too far over, it's not really going to be a roll, it's just going to be a lay there. And if it's too far under, it's going to hit the side of your arm, and it's not going to be able to roll nicely. It's going to be resisted by the side of your arm. So having that thumb touched right up to the side of your left shoulder is going to be the perfect place to start this roll. As you start this roll by softly pushing it up and over on top of your upper arm, it's going to then swing and briefly be resting on both your forearm and your upper arm, but it's going to continue moving until it's only touching your forearm part of your hand. And that's when you can reach up and catch the baton either right here, you can catch it like this, or you can let it roll off. All of them are completing a single elbow roll. There are a couple of common mistakes with the elbow roll that can prevent your rolling success. So I'm going to go over a couple of those now so you can be sure to prevent those as you're training these. The first is having too tight of a grip on the baton. You're building momentum as you scoop the baton underneath that elbow, and where you release it is going to allow that momentum to continue through to let the roll roll. But if you grip it too tightly, you're going to have trouble letting it release out of your hand, and that's going to stop that momentum and make it either a little bit bouncy, or it's going to not quite roll all the way over. So it's important to have a nice soft grip on the baton and release the baton nice and gently into that elbow roll. Another mistake is opening up your elbow. By this I mean you just kind of straighten your arm. This will create a further distance for the baton to have to travel. When your elbow is nice and tight and tucked in, it only has to go from here to here. But when your arm opens up, it has to travel a much further distance in order to make it up and over. It can also, if you open up your arm too much, much, it will fall in between your elbow and become an arm roll with a bent elbow, which is not cute. So you want to make sure that it's nice and clearly in this triangle formation to roll up and over. While I wouldn't classify these next few things as mistakes, they are, however, some bad habits that I want you to be on the lookout for. The first is having your palm rotated away or toward you. This can be really distracting to the roll itself, and you want to make sure it's nice and flat all the way up to your chest when you do this roll. So keep that palm down toward the ground. Another thing you want to watch out for is having spread fingers. If you have spread fingers, once again, it's distracting from the roll, but it can also at times look like you're using those fingers to cheat with that roll. Again, the purpose of a roll is to not be touching it with your hands, but to only be letting it roll across your elbows or around your body. So you want to make sure those fingertips are nice and tight together. And lastly, you want to make sure that that wrist is all in line all the way from your middle finger to your elbow, that it's not twisted one direction or toward you, because again, that's going to probably look like cheating, and it's not very nice and clean, which is what we want the roll to look like. Now that we've mastered that forward elbow roll, we're going to move on to the reverse elbow roll. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but I promise it's just as easy as the forward, and it's something that we can incorporate into a double elbow roll later on, so it's definitely worth stopping and taking the time to learn it properly. Reverse elbow roll, I'm again going to be demonstrating it on the left elbow. I'm going to start with the baton in my right hand, and I like to start with an outside loop just to build momentum and to set the pattern nice and in line. Sometimes if you just start from here, I know I have a tendency to push it toward me. So by starting with this outside loop, I can set it up with some good momentum and on pattern. Same as with the forward elbow roll, I'm going to have the baton 2/3 of the way down so that the middle of the baton is again in line with my elbow as I roll it, and I'm actually going to have the baton initiate the roll with my thumb touching my forearm this time. So instead of it being on my shoulder side, it's going to be on my forearm side. So I'm going to have the baton connect right behind that little wrist bone that we talked about, and it's going to exactly reverse what we did last time. So I'm going to push the baton up and over from my forearm. It's going to roll gently until it touches both, just for a millisecond, before it rocks up onto that upper arm, and that's where I'm going to receive the baton on the other side with the same hand that I released it from. Of course, because my other arm is a little tied up, being the elbow that it rolls over. Again, keeping it on pattern using this outside loop means that you're releasing it next to that wrist bone and that it's rolling really nice and tight directly across that elbow to touch right where your shoulder meets your arm. That's the line that you want to hit as you do this reverse elbow roll. Many of the common mistakes of the reverse elbow roll are similar to the forward. There are a couple that I want you to be extra careful about. The first is laying the baton across that elbow and reaching under and grabbing it. This is a lot easier with this reverse elbow roll because our thumb is right there, and just a simple over rotation leads to stopping the roll and it just being a pass. So it's really important that you release the baton while it's straight up and down right next to that wrist, pushing it up and over and grabbing it after it's rocked all on its own. Now that we've mastered the forward and reverse elbow roll, we can start adding in some fun variations. The first is the elbow extension roll. We're going to start this roll the same exact way that we did the forward elbow roll in the very beginning. I have the baton 2/3 of the way down, my thumb is up, and for the purpose of this, I'm going to be thumb to big end, the thumb to ball, so that you can follow along and watch the rotation of the baton as I show you how to do it. I'm going to begin once again with my left elbow forward in our elbow roll position, scooping the baton underneath to start that forward elbow roll. And as the baton rocks from my upper arm onto my forearm here, this is where I'm going to begin straightening my arm straight ahead. Now notice that my palm remains facing down the entire time, and I'm not twisting my arm, opening my arm up, but I'm simply going from this elbow position, pointing my fingertips directly in front of my shoulder. As the baton is rocking onto this forearm part, that's where I begin the extension part of the extension roll. I'm leading with my fingertips. It's going to roll, continuing that momentum this direction. It's going to roll over my hand in a hand roll, and I'm going to open up my thumb, and it's going to roll directly into my palm right here to catch. The hand roll is going to happen from the pinky side of my hand to the thumb side of my hand. So as it continues moving, if you remember correctly, we started the baton, it's all moving this direction. It's continuing that momentum. It's going to roll from pinky side to thumb side. I'm simply going to open up my thumb and allow it to roll right in, just like a reverse hand roll. Timing is everything for this roll, so it may take you a little bit of practice to figure out exactly when you need to start straightening that arm out and how quickly you need to straighten your arm out. It all comes with a little bit of trial and error, so I encourage you to give it a couple of good tries to see exactly what it feels like. The first common mistake with the elbow extension roll is not keeping your palm down. I frequently see a lot of opening up with that palm facing up, but that's actually a layout, which is something that we're going to learn later. So I want to make sure that we are sticking to the extension roll by keeping your palm down at all times. The next common mistake is extending your arm out too late or too soon. If you're too late with the arm extension, the baton will roll underneath your arm, and as you extend, it won't really have anywhere to go but down. It will likely hit the bottom part of your elbow here near your funny bone, which is not fun for anyone. If you open your arm up too soon, it will likely become an arm roll. It won't hit that forearm, that wrist side of your arm to complete the elbow portion, and it will likely fall through right here near your thumb. So be on the lookout for those. Another habit you should watch out for is dropping your chest down and chasing after the baton as you push it out. You want to let the baton and your arm do all the work. They've got it under control, and it definitely doesn't need you to drop your elbow down or your chest down, because that will only cause it to go straight toward the ground. You want to make sure that it stays nice and on top of that elbow and your arm to roll across the top of your hand and not toward the ground. One of the worst mistakes that you can make is cheating. I don't want to see any cheating elbow extension rolls. What I mean by this is you don't want to grab the baton too soon and push it out. You never want to touch it with your fingertips. Your fingertips should be nicely rested on your collarbone and then extended straight ahead, and should have no part in the pushing part of the roll. Next up is the elbow retraction roll. This is just going to be a reverse of the elbow extension roll, and will end up in that reverse elbow roll that we practiced earlier. Roll, you're going to have your baton in your left hand to start. It's going to be directly in front of your shoulder, and you're going to have your palm down holding the baton just to the left of center. You want a little bit more baton on the thumb side than you have on the pinky side, so that when you roll the baton up and over, notice how the center of balance is in the middle of my hand, and then again later on as we continue the roll, it'll be in the middle of my elbow. So that is just a little helpful tool to give us the right amount of baton to leverage up and over into this elbow retraction roll. To start the elbow retraction roll, again, I'm palm down, and I'm going to do a hand roll up and over from the thumb side to the pinky side. So I'm going to roll it thumb side to pinky side, and now that I've practiced that, I'm going to roll it up and over. As it reaches that pinky side, this is where I'm going to bring my hand in, palm down, keeping it nice and flat to touch my collarbone, and the momentum of the baton moving this direction is going to allow it to hit that side of my wrist and go up and over into that reverse elbow roll that we did earlier. Similar to the extension roll, timing is everything for this roll. So I want to make sure that you give it a couple of good tries to figure out exactly when you need to start bringing that hand in. If you wait too late, it'll roll right off and you won't even get to the elbow, but if it's too soon, it's going to bonk into your elbow before it gets the chance to go perfectly vertical next to this pinky. So you want to wait until the baton begins to roll over the back of your hand. This is where you begin carrying it in nice and smoothly, keeping that palm down once again. Especially since we're starting on our wrist here, you want to make sure that your palm doesn't go forward or towards you, because either way, if it goes forward, you're going to push the baton too far one direction, or if you turn your palm toward you, going to dump the baton off onto the ground. So it's important that we keep that palm nice and flat. We're going to carry it in, keeping that momentum nice and smooth to let the rest of the roll right into your hand. To finish off the retraction roll, you're going to simply catch it underneath that left shoulder with your right hand, thumb up, nice and tight, right where we started our extension roll. Especially in rolls, balance is super important, so again, all of this can just be repeated on that right hand. A couple of elbow retraction roll mistakes that you want to be watching out for are not bending that elbow in enough. So there are times that you don't get that elbow in enough, your arm is going to be too flat this direction and it's going to just roll off the end of your elbow. If you notice that when you're catching it, it's really close to your elbow, that's how you know you're not bending in that elbow enough or not quickly enough. Of course, the most important thing that you want to be watching out for is no cheating. It can be especially easy to cheat this one. You can just finish it out like you would a normal hand roll by catching it on that in your hand on that pinky side, but I want to make sure that you're letting it roll nice and smoothly and you're not stopping it to let it push up and over, and especially not letting that hand get in the way. So keep those fingertips right where they belong and let it roll nice and smoothly. Through practicing good technique and of course lots of drilling, you'll be perfecting these rolls in no time. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below to let me know. And until next time, work hard and be bold.